Welcome to Subramani. A few months ago, according to YouTube, about 11 months ago, I made a video which says do not buy a house at all. Why it makes no sense to buy a house, renting is far better, right? It has got 1.5 lakh views and some 500 comments, right? So I thought I will read out the comments and I'll talk about the comments that people have done. So Karthik Podugu says, very good explanation. I've been through this topic over the last couple of years, and these are my conclusions. You need a house to live in. Buy it, use it, but don't think of it as an investment. These things you get out of house, but not money. Never buy a house for the reasons like home loan interest rate is less or things like that. That's not enough reason to buy. Buy a house only if you're going to stay there and enjoy it with your family. Do not think that you are buying there because of the interest rate, etc. I think the people who wrote did the exercise and will send the question to understand whether fine, that's true. Don't buy a house just because you're getting a tax benefit, just because interest rates have gone down. Don't watch TV and believe that, oh, interest rates have gone up, I should sell everything and repay my housing loan. All this is wrong. Use your own brain, ask yourself all the questions. I've done another video saying the 3, 20, 30, 40 rule of buying a house. That's very popular on Asan Ideas for Wealth. All the viewing of that video has happened because of Asan Ideas of Wealth, and there are 1 or 2 people who keep tagging it again and again. So that's fine. So then Prabhu Jagannathan says, no matter what you say, start owning at least one house early in life with a limited budget. That removes life's uncertainty from mind. Having said that, the confidence you gain can be applied to chase your other dreams. I seriously don't know, because there have been enough Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada films made, Marathi films made where a landlord threw a family out of the house and everybody was crying. It was raining. The child was holding on to a photo and saying, oh my God, now where will we go? This, I think, is a brilliant ploy by the housing industry, which talks up the market and says, oh, so people got so much return, people got 28% return, 42% return. Sit down and properly calculate and see how much return have you got. And the fact that today there are more landlords chasing tenants than tenants chasing landlords. Things have changed. So adjust to that. In a country with higher inflation, real estate may look good, but if you look at real return, very unlikely that real estate is going to give it to you. You want to buy a house, but stick to the rules of buying a house. Don't buy a house just because your mother is telling you, your father is telling you, your neighbors are telling you, right? That's not enough reason. Get married and make sure that both husband and wife understand why you are not buying a house. 27 is not a great age to buy a house, because at the age of 29 you could be working in a different city, right? What if you have a job in Baroda, you buy a house in Baroda and your next job takes you to Pune or Hyderabad or Singapore or Dubai or any place, right? You will have to pay rent in one place and the EMI for another place. So no matter what, sir, these kind of real life case studies are very helpful. Life stories for most of us is similar or close to such stories. When you analyze such cases, it gives us the advantage of measuring up our own life with slight tweaks. It's recommended that you conduct one such case study per week. Okay, thank you. Gaurav Sharma says, I am 31 and really grateful for all your advice. You have made a remarkable impact in my life. Thank you, Gaurav. My plan would be to live on rent in metros and retire owning a house in a tier 3 city or a village. Buying house for future generation does not make sense, because they will not live in the same house. Completely agree. The house in which I am living, I bought it pretty late in life, and very unlikely that my daughter will be able to live in this house. This house will just get, I mean, it may get reconstructed. She may sell it and go off to some other city. It's not compulsory that she has to work in the same place where I worked, or she'll live in the same city where I lived, right? May or may not happen. I'm not saying it won't happen, but may not happen. Sounds like a well-organized individual. Owning a house is a pleasure of its own. So a small investment for that pleasure is all life. But if you're well planned and organized like Arvind, then it is different. Ardent follow of Subra for many years of blogs and Twitter, always learned from it to incorporate his suggestions and advice in real life, except for not buying a house. I am 44 and stay in rented house till Chinese virus struck and I understood importance of owning house. Now I am living in my own house constructed between the lockdown. Shri Dikshant Belwal says, my strategy always buy cheaper home for living, buy a 30 lakh flat instead of buying a 60 lakh flat with loan and interest, and put their money in the stock market. It will give you money to buy a bigger flat in 5 to 10 years. I don't understand the logic, but yeah. So Karthik says, our emotions about home is a profit for real estate owners. Perfectly correct. Housing prices have definitely inflated in most Indian cities and may not be worth it. You're right person to guide for financial issues. Will you guide for retiring people? This is a complicated matter, and each person is a different situation in which is absolutely agree. Because if you come from a very insecure house where your father got thrown out by his father or something, he had fight with his brothers, he had to give up a house, then you are desperate to own one house. That I agree, but not everybody is in such a situation. If you've been in a very comfortable situation, your parents own a house and you're living there comfortably, then it is not necessary for you to buy another house, or you take a house on rent if you want to live separately. And you know, in the worst case scenario, you can always go there because somebody else has already bought it. You don't need to buy one more house. You don't have to say, oh, my father is in this house, I bought the neighboring house, or things like that. You may not need to do it. You may want to do it, but you don't need to do it. This channel is for sensible people, not for those who just keep body up with trend. Fantastic perspective presented. Thank you. I mean, he's not given his name. I think the root cause missing out is the concept of minimalistic living. We have all done impulse buying and loaded our house with rented apartments with non-essential things. Having said that, life is not about just daily pleasures. What is the point in living? It boils down to, oh, this is too philosophical. Kabir Naik, I seriously owe you a lot of vote of thanks for making me financially literate. Thank you. The satisfaction of living in our own house, he is again not given his name, cannot be earned by investing. That's fine, that suits you. See, it's very important that when I say that this is what I did, this is what I did, right? I'm not getting into saying you should do this. It's completely up to you whether you want to do this or you want to do something else. If you can say discipline for 30 years, making sure that you didn't invest in buying a house, then it makes sense, but then don't buy the flat. Keep sharing your thoughts. You can't take suggestions about you from life. Each life is unique. Go by your own thoughts. Perfectly correct. Word of wisdom, if anything you do takes away your tranquility, it's not worth doing. And don't fall for what the majority says. Yeah, this is also true, because nobody comes and tells you, look, my brother bought a house, then he had an attack, he couldn't take up his job, so therefore he was alive, unwell, and couldn't pay the EMI, then that house had to be sold in a distress. All these things happen. I do see such cases, right? But we ignore that, because most people come and say, you know, I bought this house for X amount, now it is worth 2X. Maybe there were a lot of other problems in that X becoming 2X, right? Nowadays, every Tom and Dick and Harry considers himself to be a financial guru. Investing and returns is only complicated, which will vary from case to case. That's fine, boss. It's not. That's very important to note that I run a channel where I say what happened. You could take it or you could leave it. It's not compulsory that you should listen to all my advice. It's not even compulsory to see all the videos. I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but it's a very big country, 134 million people, maybe 138 million people. And about 50,000 people watch my videos. Maybe now it is 52,000 people watching the videos. That's fine by me, right? Not having a permanent address is very inconvenient. So your father also didn't have a permanent address, like looks like that, right? Changing the address for your ration card, etc., driver's license, passport, etc. He has mentioned all of that. So KYC has to be given year on year for bank accounts. So the middle class person's life is very complicated, so he needs at least one house. Bad luck, boss. But if your father had a house, you give that address, right? What's your problem? Financial planning perspective, buying a house can never make sense. If it appreciates the joy and peace of living in your own house, then you never get into this calculation. Secondly, it might also be include real estate as an asset class. If you have enough savings to buy from your own funds, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Your advice is okay for those who bought it and sold it for a profit. This doesn't make sense. The way labor cost went up and material cost went up, apart from the increase in the land cost, buying a house in your early part is a very good idea if you're going to live in that. Your children would have lots of friends in that area. If you decide to live in a rented house, your children would not be able to have stable friends in the group. There's no value of your happiness. So therefore, that is the cost of buying a house. So therefore, you should buy a house. Well, I think everybody should own a house for mental peace, and having 2-3 houses, weekend houses, not a good idea. That's fine. Everybody should have a house, and that's the reason why your JSW, Asian Paints, HDFC Limited, HDFC Bank shares will go up. So please buy all those houses, paint them, furnish them. That's good for everybody, good for the economy also. Thank you. But there are 500 comments. I've just covered 100, so maybe I'll do some later on. Thank you.